Hello, good morning and welcome to day 3 of the WRC Safari Rally Kenya 2024 edition. This is KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner. My name is Tiras Wayaki, taking this pleasant opportunity to wish you again a happy Easter. I'm not alone in studio. I'm joined by a guy who knows the Kenyan rally circuit pretty well. Kego Karidhi. I was with him last year. We did the Safari Rally 2023 WRC, and he's particularly well versed in the area of navigation. Although he knows a thing or two about driving, he knows a thing or two about mechanics, and he knows more than a thing or two on the technicalities, the rules, the do's and the don'ts of rallying. Kego, Happy New Year. Haven't seen you since last year, although we've been in touch once in a while.
Yes, Jambo.
Welcome back to KBC.
Thank you, Tiras. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you. I'm glad to be back at KBC.
Yes, it's going to be a long day. Today, Kenyans are going to see us and see us and see us and get tired of seeing us. Day 1 began at, after the vehicles were flagged off at KICC, that's the Kenyatta International Convention Center, by His Excellency the President, Dr. William Ruto. They went to the usual Kasarani SS1 stage where Nairobians could get a feel of the rallying and go back, way back in time to the good old days. That was won by Thierry Neuville. And then day 2, yesterday, the vehicles were in Naivasha. Kalarov and Pera did an impeccable job. He won all 6 stages and is top of the leaderboard. Yeah. Today we go into day 3. It might be a bit more wet than yesterday, and they say today is when the rally begins. Saturday.
The Saturday of the safari usually is the deciding day. Today they are rallying around Soisambu, Sleeping Warrior, and Elementaita. There are reports that there may be heavy rain, maybe in the afternoon. Usually rains in the afternoon, and if rain comes into play, then you know it's anybody's game. The rally seems to be going to form like the rally of last year. Hyundai had a lot of promise even at shakedown before the event on Wednesday in Naivasha. Neuville, Tanak, Esapeka Lapi were showing that the car looked like it maybe had ticked the right boxes to be able to compete in this year's safari. But after yesterday's events, you know, it seems Lady Luck still doesn't shine on Hyundai too well. The sole surviving Hyundai is Thierry Neuville. He's lying 4th, if I'm not wrong.
4th.
And he's had a lot of problems. He had some problem with the rear right wheel. He hit a bank and destroyed the wheel, had a puncture, destroyed some other components. But I saw him on the last stage of, which was Kedong last evening, and he was motoring pretty well. I think after the service, they had fixed up the car. He still has a couple of, I think about 7 seconds from Romampera. So 7 seconds is not that much in Kenya. Of course, in another event,
isn't it 56 seconds, almost a minute?
56 seconds there from the second car, yeah. But even Kale was saying 1 minute even is not that much in Kenya.
He did say so.
And considering the expected conditions today, anything could happen. So I think by the end of today is when we'll understand who is likely to win this event. But it doesn't look good for Hyundai. Fords are not doing too badly. We have Adrian Fomo performing quite well.
5th place.
Yeah, Gregoire Munster also, first time in a WRC 1 car, doing very well, and wish them all the best. But then again, you know, as usual, it looks like Kenya is Toyota country.
Kenya is Toyota country. Yeah. We saw them finish, they had a podium finish last year. 1, 2, 3.
4,
clean sweep,
actually,
and then
4.
Yeah. That obviously 4 doesn't make the podium, but well worth a mention. And they want to sort of repeat the same this time. Given half a chance, they'll definitely do it. A bit of controversy from yesterday. Otanak and Esapeka Lapi retired for the day after a mishap or 2. That meant yesterday was as good as wasted for them. But there's this window that gives you an opportunity, the Super Rally, to come back, and it lasts wide open until today. Tomorrow being the final day, the window doesn't open. Yeah. So you can't come back through that window. If you're out tomorrow, you're technically out. Yeah. But the impression that was there is that Otanak and Esapeka Lapi of Hyundai, both of them, that their rally is technically finished.
Well, it's there's a rule that is called Super Rally.
Yes.
Which means that even if you retire on day 1 or 2, you can come back on day 3.
Yes.
So that's the rule that they are going to apply today. Tanak had steering failure, if I'm not wrong, hit a rock in the middle of the road on a high-speed section. Lappi had gearbox failure, which apparently we heard from the technical director of Hyundai saying is something that they were afraid of. In fact, I watched a clip where he was being asked whether is that an issue that Neuville needs to worry about, and he said definitely yes. So they are aware that the car has a gearbox issue. And so what Esapeka and Ot Tanak are going to do, they have restarted today. I think they're already in Soisambu. And they get a penalty. They get a penalty time, meaning they can't win the rally. Ideally, they can't win the rally. But, you know, there are less than 8 WRC1 cars, meaning even if they don't do so well, they come top 10 in their class.
Yes.
With a rainy day today, what happens to the guys who didn't retire yesterday? You never know. So technically, with Super Rally, you're not supposed to be able to win the event. But with the conditions that are going to be expected, you know, who knows?
So if cars that are ahead of them in the WRC1 category, for one reason or another, experience mechanical hitches here and there or some accident, these guys, the guys who came out, retired yesterday, Lappi and Esapek and Ot Tanak, stand a chance of winning a rally that they were technically out of.
Yeah. It's a rule that was introduced by FIA. You know, rallying at that level is very expensive. These teams based in Europe, you know, they ship their cars out, they ship their crew out. They started to feel that, you know, it was kind of, it was almost cruel to put in all that effort, come here and on day 1 your car is out. So what FIA in their wisdom decided, okay, what we'll do, we'll give you a little window where you can actually score some points to help you in the rest of your season, because, you know, it's a full season. They rally until December.
Yes.
So that's why that rule was introduced. So even if you don't win, at least you go away with something. And so, you know, it works for everybody. Of course, a bit controversially, people then can also win after doing that. But it's the rules that are there, and everybody rallies based on them.
WRC2 category.
Yeah.
You've got Greensmith, who won, is leading the leaderboard in that special that category or that group.
WRC2, yeah.
Yes, and then you've got Kacenovic.
Yeah.
Kacenovic is second placed.
Yeah.
What do you make of WRC2 so far?
WRC2 is very competitive. In fact, we have a few Kenyans in that one. We have Carl Cundo, we have Karan Patel.
Karan Patel, the African rally champion.
Yeah, so it's almost the class that we rally here as our Premier League, sort of.
Yes.
Because we run those cars here in Kenya as our top cars. So WRC has a lot of interest, very competitive. We have guys from as far as South America.
Yes.
There's a crew from Paraguay, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
There's, of course, Kajetanovic, who is now a Safari veteran.
Yes.
And so it is quite competitive. There are reports that Gus is unwell. He seems to have a flu. And so he's driving with, under quite a lot of duress. And so today being a very long day, more than 120 Ks of competitive rallying. In conditions that could be, you know, alternatively very hot, alternatively very wet. It's going to be very tough on him.
Gosh, we wish him well.
Yeah, keep up the fluids. I hope you got a good night's sleep. And so by the end of today, like I say, it will be apparent who is likely to win the event tomorrow.
Okay, in case you've just joined us, in another 15 minutes or so, we shall be going down to, is it down or up, to Naivasha to get some live rallying action. But meanwhile, we are sort of giving you a heads up on what has been happening since Thursday and what is expected to happen between now and tomorrow, which is the last and final day of this event. Sticking to the WRC2 category, Carl Tundo, wasn't he in the WRC3 category last year?
Last year he was in 3, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, and he got a podium finish, third place.
Yeah.
So how comes this year he sort of gets elevated to WRC2 category? Is it based on his performance last year, which was pretty good, or? No,
not based on the performance. It's based on the entry that you put in. If your car complies with the WRC2 status, then you're in that competition. If your car complies with WR3 status, then you're in that competition. So it's more about which competition did they enter. You know, you can enter for the 100 meters or for the 800 meters. It's the competition that you want to enter. And of course, the higher you go up the ladder, the requirements are quite stiff. So maybe last year they weren't able to meet some of the requirements that allowed them to participate in WRC 2. So they opted for WRC 3. Since it's the same event, and at the end of the day, you know, the rally drivers are signing up to rally.
Yes.
Whether you're in WRC 2 or 1, it's neither here nor there at some point, yeah? You want to rally, you want to do those stages, and so if they tell you that your car doesn't comply for WRC 2, but complies for WRC 3, you'll be, thank you very much, let's get in the car and rally.
Okay, so what if he qualifies for WRC 1? He can take himself there?
WRC 1 is not a lot about qualification, it's about the team, it's about selection. It's almost like how football teams scout for talent.
Yes.
If Hyundai decided that Cundo was good enough, they'd give him a car.
Okay.
If Toyota Yari Mati decided, and it used to happen in the old days. In the old days, people like Ian Duncan drove for Toyota Team Europe, and they would drive a one-off event. It would be safari, because they would know that Ian was a safari expert.
Yes.
So they would bring 3 cars or 4 cars, and the 4th or 3rd car would go to Ian Duncan, who would perform very well. Okay. You know, he was like the guy who would bag the points. The other 2 guys would be there to win.
Yes.
But of course, winning there was danger of retiring. And in those days, there was no Super Rally. Yeah? Those days, you were out.
No, there wasn't.
Goodbye.
Yeah, you're out. Goodbye.
Yeah.
So, it was a cold and cruel world, wasn't it?
So the Kenyan specialist in those days, Ian, was the guy who was guaranteed to bring the car to the podium or to the end and bag some points for Toyota. So I don't know whether that will happen now, because the crop of young drivers coming up from WRC2 is very hot. You know, there are young guys there. I mean, Kalle Rovanperä yesterday, after a poor performance in Sweden.
Yes.
I mean, you could even see, I was on the stage, I was on Longonaut 1 and Longonaut 2, and you could even see, after watching these cars, you could see that this car was actually being driven above everybody else. He was flying. And he's a young man, I don't think he's 25 yet.
No, he's not.
So it's difficult. The Kenyans compete in that pool.
Yes.
And unless we can, I mean, kudos to the government with the Talanta Hela and the Youth Academy. But unless we can produce young people who have the experience, who have the rally time, the rally seat time, you never know. Maybe in the future we have a young Kalle Rovanperä. But the young guys are very talented.
Okay, speaking of the rains, because we're sort of expecting that today, although they say it's going to be a mixture of sun and cloud.
Yeah.
Does that, as a navigator, make your job harder?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. You know, you make notes. You make notes as you are driving, and your notes are pace notes based on the speed of, for example, corners. So a dry corner might be a max left, but that same corner wet can't be a max left, because you'll slide off the road. So then it becomes, you know, max maybe slippy, or max or left slow. So now, if it rains after you have made dry notes, you know, it just makes the navigator's job that much harder.
Wow.
And the mud, just to give you a little story, is that there was a KNRC event that was done in the wet. And this is maybe 10 years ago. There was a young man called Danraj Matharu, who had maybe rallied 2 more rallies before. And in those days, you know, there were guys like Cundo, Alistair Kavanagh, there were, you know, Lee Rose, there were top guys who were supposed to win the event.
Frank Tundo or Carl?
No, Carl Tundo.
Okay, I thought you were talking of his dad.
I'm sure his dad was also in the event, but at the time also wasn't one of the top contenders, let's say. So here, this young rookie who was driving an older Subaru Safari spec car, meaning that it wasn't going to be so allergic to the water or the mud. Not so many sensors, not like these new cars. Can you imagine he won that rally? His second rally, KNRC, he won it, because he emerged from the mud unscathed. Now, what I'm just trying to say is that when it rains and the conditions are bad, it's anybody's event. It can turn the tables on whoever thinks they are on top right now. It hasn't rained as of yet as hard as we thought. So Isambu had received, Sleeping Warrior had received some rain last week.
Yes.
Maybe drying up, but if it receives more rain this afternoon, or, you know, before they hit that loop,
yes,
you know, the game could be anybody's. Let's see. We are all praying for rain. We want to see some action.
What of now the other Kenyan drivers? We've looked at the WRC2 category ones. How about the Pauline Chegus, the Jeremiah Wahomes, the Hamza Anwars who had to come through the Super Rally?
Yeah,
yesterday.
the people doing the KNRC are doing one loop. So what's happening is the WRC 1 and 2 are doing first loop, come into service, hold in, and then do the second loop, and then the KNRC now follow behind them. Advantage, disadvantage, you're only doing one loop, so probably not that tired. Disadvantage is you're doing that loop at 4 o'clock. Yesterday we saw Isa Amwari, unfortunately just before he retired. We saw him leaving in the Longonot stage at about 5:30. We saw Pauline and Lynette also doing motoring very well. And so you're rallying at the end of the rally. It's still the same route. The road has also been churned up by the top cars. Of course, their cars are slightly less powered. So very tough for them, very tough for them. Whoever gets to the end of today, you know, kudos guys.
Now, WRC3 category.
Yeah.
Is that where the KNRC fit in?
I think the only car that applied for WRC3 was Hamza Anwar, and I think Hamza had some problems. I don't know whether he started.
He came back through the Super Rally.
Oh, okay. So if he's motoring, that's fine. He's in his own event. He needs to just take the car to the end.
Yes.
But there were reports that he was having a lot of trouble. I don't know what the issue was.
True story.
Yeah.
I got the confirmation from Sir Daniel Wahome, who was on the ground.
Okay,
yes,
that's how he's done.
He sent me a WhatsApp yesterday.
Okay.
And we informed Kenyans.
Okay.
But obviously through the Super Rally, he got his second stab at life.
Okay, but we didn't see him yesterday, so I don't know whether I don't think he motored yesterday, I'm not sure, because we didn't see him. We saw the 2 loops, but we didn't see him. So unless he had problems before the start of the rally, I'm not sure. Maybe he then comes back today, and we wish him all the luck.
Yes.
But now, very tough event.
Now that you are there, what is it like, weather-wise? We've shifted from the June event, gone back to the traditional Easter when it's a bit wet, a bit more cold, and that sort of thing. Have Kenyans stand up in large numbers?
Oh yeah, definitely. Where I was, have been watching the WRC from Longonot stage for the last 3 years, and this year was quite crowded.
Okay.
It's a very well laid out spectator zone, so it's you can spread yourselves out. There's not so much crowding. Up there at Moi South Lake Road is a bit crowded, but I guess some fans like to come and be together and enjoy this spectacle together. But, you know, Safari, I was watching a clip of Rich Milner, director of M-Sport, and he was saying that a lot of the times he's behind the scenes. He doesn't get time to go and watch. But he says in Kenya he has to make time to watch because, you know, the pictures, the scenery, the vehicles, the people, they just all come together to make such an incredible spectacle that, you know, Safari is just something that needs to be experienced. Even if you're not a rally fan, you need to just go out, take a picnic, go with friends, enjoy the nature, and if you get to see some amazing top flight rallying, I mean, it's just, what better thing can you do?
Did you take your son there with you this time
yes,
around?
definitely. I can't leave him at home. He'll not be very happy. So we went together. They fortunately had closed school on Wednesday. So, yeah, we were there the whole day. Also went with my driver, Leonardo, and I mean, it's, the class of the WRC1 cars is completely, it's global. Yes. They are at the top of the game. This is R&D for vehicles. The equipment that is in these WRC1 cars, maybe 10 years, might come into the cars we drive. So this is top flight rally, and it's the only one of its kind in Africa. We Kenyans need to be very, very proud that we've had this tradition going on for so long. Kudos to the team that brought it back, and you know.
Was there much traffic getting there?
There wasn't, apparently. There wasn't. I think the police have made good plans for getting in and out. Traditionally, Saturday and Sunday have been the more crowded. So let's see what happens today. Fans, you know, be safe. Don't try to emulate the rally cars. Have fun, and I'm sure anybody who's there is going to be so amazed by these cars. They look so good. Look so good.
How about the equally fun side, but other side, the music and the partying?
Oh yes, there was a lot of
you know,
that.
they call it Vasha.
A lot of that.
Oh, there was a lot of that too.
Yeah. It's a celebration of life. You know, it's Easter, isn't it? We are celebrating we are celebrating Easter. So let the young people enjoy. Of course, you know, there may
With
be
caution,
incidences here and
yes.
there, but it's part of life. I say let the young people enjoy. It's their time. Kudos to those who make it possible to have this event in Kenya. You know, like I say, Kenyans need to be very proud. We're only one of 13 rounds. How many countries are there in the world? And you know how many applications are there to have an event? Meaning that there are probably another 30, 40 countries that are waiting to remove safari from us. But if you had the promoter and the FIA officials at the start on Thursday, they're like, you know, we are so happy to have this event here. You guys are doing so well. They are so happy with His Excellency the President coming in a racing suit, you know. His interest in the event and his uptake of the event, not many countries do it. So Safari is a special event. We all need to work together to ensure it's here for the rest of our lives. And so far, so good. It's a brilliant event,
Yes.
and it's running well. No untoward incidences. Of course, a couple of accidents in the rally. Nikhil Sachania and Deep had quite a bad role. Their car is totally destroyed. Both of them luckily unscratched. And, you know, those are rallying incidences. And that's why, you know, rallying safety is so stringent. You have to have helmets on, you have to have safety harnesses. They walked out of that car. So apart from those incidences on the rally, we haven't had anything untoward.
So is there a chance of them coming back through Super Rally?
Never. Their car is destroyed. Their car is completely destroyed. Also, young Saman Vora, who rolled his car at the Super Special. You know when you are in Rally 2, WRC 2, and even in KNRC, there are stringent rules that apply to rally. For example, if your car has had an incident like the roll that we saw at the Super Special, as soon as you get the car out into the Parc Fermé, it is inspected by the safety delegate. And if the roll cage is deemed to have any sort of defect, aka a bend, a crack, that car is disqualified. You cannot then enter the next day. And unfortunately, that's what happened to Saman Vora. His car was inspected and the technical delegates deemed that the car had a bend in the roll cage, meaning that it was unsafe.
So even
they could not
Super Rally
continue.
comes with a caveat?
Of course. If you've had an accident,
okay.
you see, if you've destroyed your suspension, which can be put back. If you've destroyed maybe lights or whatever, those are not things that tamper so much with safety. But any kind of incident, the car must be inspected by the safety delegate. And the things he's going to inspect are whether your seats are okay, whether your belts are okay, whether where your belts are harnessed is okay. If those points have been compromised, he can sign off that this car is no longer qualified or certified to rally safely. And unfortunately, that's what happened to Saman Vora.
You're speaking a lot about safety and a safety officer manning this sort of thing. When I go back in time, I used to see the Ian Duncans rallying in a polo shirt and shorts. And now all the participants seem to be rallying in the safety gear, sort of clothes.
How I would answer that is that rallying, like anything in life, goes through an evolution.
Okay.
In those days was the wild west, we call it. You know, I mean, if you know a bit about the Group B era, Group B era was manufacturers building cars and concentrating on the power of the car. Basically, if you brought a car this year with 200 bhp, next year I brought a car with 300 bhp. The year after, you brought a car with 400 bhp. Nobody cared about safety. Nobody cared about handling. Nobody cared about, and of course, what happened in the early 80s, we started to have people like Henry Toivonen dying. You know, we started to have cars that were, you know, not possible to drive safely. And so the FIA had to go back to the drawing table and say, okay, what we do here, we are going to cap this power. Your car must be below 2000 cc before turbo. Yeah? You can add a turbo to a 2000 cc car. So what that then did is that the power was capped. So how do I make my car faster? I must do research on brakes. I must make this car brake faster. I must work on acceleration, traction.
So is that why they introduced hydraulic brakes?
That's why we have the cars that we have today. The WRC cars are actually 1600 cc. But they produce enough power, enough torque, because the technology has gone to building an all-rounded car, a car that is driven better, a car that is handled better, a car that jumps better, a car that the aerodynamics are better, because they capped the power. Now, how do you get an advantage when you have the same power? You have to start thinking. You've got to make it hold the road better. You've got to make it easier for the driver to drive. You've got to make it safer, you know? Yes. They brought all these, and in that evolution, they also raised the idea about safety. The cars don't use normal fuel. Some of them use concoctions that are very, very flammable. So what does that happen? It means that you must enforce the drivers wearing not fireproof, fire retardant. Fire retardant, meaning it gives you the time to get out. You know, the first thing that catches fire if you're in a house fire is your clothes.
Your clothes.
So the suits we wear are made of a material called Nomex, which allows you to exit the car even in a full flame. Of course, you might burn where your skin is exposed, but you won't get full body burns. And under that suit, we also have Nomex underwear, full Nomex underwear. Yes. So that that is now an evolution, and that's why we are no longer doing shorts and sweatbands. I remember people driving Toyota Celicas with sweatbands. You know, their biggest problem was the sweat coming from there. But today, I can assure you, high-speed frontal impact in a rally car, 90% you walk out without a scratch.
Even the vehicles are said to have an automatic fire extinguisher.
Of course, that is part of the regulations. The WRC1 cars have an on-impact fire extinguisher. So
what of the other categories?
The other categories are relaxed a bit. Are relaxed a bit because it costs a lot of money, and this is all about the money that goes into WRC.
Yes.
So if you want to have a category here in Kenya that's slightly more affordable, you might say instead of a plumbed-in, it's called a plumbed-in fire extinguisher. You may have fire extinguisher on both sides of the driver and co-driver, a manual one.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yep. So in a few minutes, about a couple of minutes or so, we're going to be going all the way to Elementaita, where the cars are being flagged off at 9:05. Then from there, they move on to Sleeping Warrior. Soisambu 2, Elementaita 2, and then Sleeping Warrior. So Soisambu 2, Elementaita 2, Sleeping Warrior, those are the afternoon sessions. We still have to do the morning sessions, which is Elementaita 1 and Sleeping Warrior. Of course, Soisambu 1 was done in the morning. They started that at 8:01. The vehicles were flagged off. The first vehicle was flagged off. And we'll be going there and we'll catch a bit of the live action. So if you haven't made it to Naivasha, don't you worry. You'll feel pretty much as though you're actually there. Kego, very quickly, tell us why you're not participating in this year's event. You went there with your driver yesterday, but would have expected you to go there to participate, as opposed to taking it in.
So would we, but there's a slight problem of lack of Kenya shilling.
Oh, but, okay.
Yeah, what we have some proposals we have written to some sponsors, and we are hoping maybe later this year, or maybe even WRC for next year, we might take part.
Okay.
But otherwise, we are happy to be here at KBC.
Oh, definitely. We're happy to have you.
We are happy to be on the side of the road cheering for all our friends.
Yes.
And we're happy to be in the atmosphere. This is amazing. I've been following rally for now maybe 40 years.
Wow.
So,
last year when we discussed with you, obviously, like most people, and you said that Sleeping Warrior is usually the most difficult stage.
Yeah.
Wahome interviewed Cundo yesterday, and Cundo actually said Kedong is the most difficult stage. And mind you, he's grown up around those areas. So can we say his word carries more weight?
I think yesterday's interview, he meant Kedong is the most difficult stage of yesterday. You see, he was being...
No, generally.
He was being interviewed.
Generally.
Oh, he meant generally?
Generally, yes.
Well, okay, I guess generally, I mean, it's the stage that has had the fesh. It's the stage that has had the fesh, which has caused the most trouble, I guess. But, so I guess he could be right, yes.
Because he said Friday is the most difficult, generally, because Saturday is deemed to be the most difficult because of Sleeping Warrior, but he was like, Friday is the most difficult. And when you look at Lapi's exploits from yesterday and Ottanak's as well, you think, okay, his word does carry a bit of weight. Well, but most people are saying that Saturday is the most difficult day. We'll carry on with that conversation later. I think it's time to go to Elementaita and join the rest of the world. Let's go find out